Hey, everybody, and excuse me. Guess I wasn't ready to talk today. It is Saturday, 1 o'clock U.S. Eastern on the 26th of August, and we are back from hiatus here on Push to Talk. Welcome, everyone. We have a cadre or plethora or, large herd, however you want to talk about it, of people on the show today. We have a number of folks from our CSM folks, and they are candidates for the CSM. We have Nuke Michael. You get the wave. Jack.
Hello.
Okay. Dynamite.
Hello.
Hello.
And Alexeyev. Is it Carde or Card? How do you
Card.
Card. Alrighty. So we got it right, and along with our standard crew of McLeod, Bargos, Dawn, who's probably getting eaten by dinosaurs. Don't let her lie to you.
I'm here.
You missed Dukek.
Did I miss Dukek?
No, I got a shout out at the start.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I must have missed that then. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
And by the way, McLeod's here too, just in case you were wondering.
Hello.
And thank you to my co-hosts who did tons of work to set up the show. It was amazing. You guys did a great job, so thank you much. And welcome to everybody. I noticed before we started, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people with new follows here. So that's pretty good. One of them, just a bunch of characters. Hilla, Hoja Boy, Hattori, Hanzo, Emp Constantine, Blue Sino. That's one we like. Hoff. That's Hasselhoff. I think that's David Hasselhoff, the Hoff. And Ellen Rowe, Lessendil, and Ice Micro. Whatever. All right.
Are you sure you're not muted?
Am I muted? Nah, I shouldn't be muted.
Oh.
Surely not.
No, my mic is supposed to.
No.
So there. Can you not hear me?
Everyone can be here. Everyone.
I can't tell. Baby chat is just trolling.
I think you're getting trolled,
Hey,
yeah.
well, we have. I'm just
Twitch chat
very
trolling?
quiet,
Never.
Very quiet.
You're just a little quiet for some reason.
Well, we can. Let's see. Let's check all the little Mikey things. They look all pretty good. We'll check. I might be talking a little quiet today. It was a rough night last night. You never know.
But yeah.
All right.
I think further introductions are called for here.
All
I think so,
Where
yes.
you go? Shoot.
You're gonna let me go. Why don't you guys introduce yourself? I think that's the best way of going. Let's start with Alec.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alexeyev Card. You might know me as the host of the Declarations of War podcast. I'm a former CSM representative on CSMs 4 and 7, and I'm also the founder of Noir, one of the most well-known and longest-running mercenary units in the game.
Hell yeah, you are.
Right, down the list we go. Dujek.
Hey, I am Dujek One Eye. I am one of Brave's 2 CSM candidates this year, and otherwise you'd see me as the captain for the AT team of Brave, and probably getting killed by one of my alts in Potion.
Nuke.
Hey, I'm Nuke Michael. I am the only CSM candidate from Snuff for this year. I'm our main USCFC, and I'm running because someone's got to continue where High left off with his tries.
Nice.
And last but not least, Phantomite.
Hi there, I'm Phantomite. I've been playing the game for an incredibly long amount of time, and I think that there's a lot of lessons we can take from the past to improve the future of the game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Oh,
fantastic.
Definitely nice to have you all here. To introduce everyone to what we're going to talk about today. Last week we had the finals for the Alliance Tournament 19. I'm sure everyone here was involved in some ways.
Who won?
fraternity did.
Yeah.
Nice.
And also, we have CSM elections upcoming, which might explain why we have some CSM candidates here.
No, really?
By the way, I have a quick question here, Saad. Rumor has it we might even have show notes for this show or something.
We have notes?
I mean-
we even prepared things. It's amazing.
There's a script.
You don't understand. We never have a
I wouldn't
script.
go so far as a script.
There's a document with words on it. Let's call it that.
That is,
That
that's a
is
lot.
like 10 times more than we ever do.
That's a lot for us. I mean, somebody typed words. Wow.
Oh yeah, we did.
we did go that far at some point.
I do want to note that some of the people who typed these words aren't here right now. So
Yeah, Dirk, fuck you.
Well, that's why they type the words, so the words are here when they aren't, right?
Yeah, but
Something like that.
you don't get the right sound if you don't hear Dirk's condescending, overbearing tone. Just saying. It just doesn't have the same luster without it. I love Dirk, but dear Lord, that man can talk.
It's your cat can meow.
Yes, she can.
well,
Maybe
complain when Dirk isn't around.
Maybe Dirk is communing with the cat gods to sort of speak through your cat
yes.
there. There could be that.
Using my cat to speak for him. I can believe it.
Yes. Your cat did sound condescending enough to be very Dirk-like, so yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm glad to be back. And I think we're all kind of a little sort of still limbering up because we've been away for 2 weeks, sort of thing, and we're all kind of there's a lot of things to talk about, obviously notably considering our guests, the AT and also CSM, right? I mean, do we just jump right in there? Should we just jump right in there?
Jump right in.
Should we just yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so the AT. Let's go with the AT, considering that I'm sure there's a bunch of you are clawing at the bit to want to actually really talk about the AT. How was it for you guys? How did you feel about it?
Have you guys ever seen so many sort of mid-match turnarounds as in this AT?
I will say for me, the AT was just
surprising.
incredibly fucking stressful. That's all it was. It was very, very stressful.
Well, for the people playing in the AT, maybe I can tell you the production side was very chill this year.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, it was remarkably smooth. One piece I left off my credits that I probably should have mentioned for this topic, I did commentate for the Alliance tournament, as I have for the past 3 years, and I think this year was the smoothest on the production side that I've seen. I don't know, there probably have been smoother years, but certainly compared to last year, I thought it was noticeably better. And the match quality was fantastic, so exciting, right up to the finals.
Which tournament number was this since the far too long break where they didn't bother doing it? Is this the third? Yeah,
Third, yeah.
It's the third.
yeah. It's been fantastic. This tournament here, I am just a viewer of the tournament. I love watching it. I hate taking part in it. It's not my speciality in any way whatsoever, and it shows. But I love watching it, and I've never seen such a bunch of exciting matches as I have in this one here.
One of my
so shocking
co-captains got gray hairs from the AT this year, actually. That was fun.
My hair fell out from the AT this year, so I think I win.
Yeah, that's
But,
this year's AT.
We had the most viewers this year too, by far.
Yeah,
the numbers
that was
were amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, I think I saw 7,000 at some point.
Oh, there were 9.5 on the
Really?
Saturday. Twitch drops and all. It's great for viewers.
Yeah, it got really close to 10,000, I think. I'm not sure if it crossed it, though.
So would you chalk that up to the AT being and very interesting this year, or would you chalk it up to the Twitch drops, or a bit of both?
Before
Maybe
the
a bit
Twitch
of both.
drops, there were also more people than we've ever had, I think. We had like 7.5 on the Sunday previously, so it's been good.
The shops are only for the second weekend, but we had
Yeah.
really good attendance on the first weekend as
Okay, so a bit of both then.
I guess we could do a bit of a bridge to CSM topics then. What do you think of these Twitch drops, especially for player run content?
I mean, these drops consist of basically cosmetics, right?
Yeah, it was a Gnosis skin and some clothes.
So I'm all for it. I think it's a great way to get a little bit more engagement. I mean, maybe sort of, 5 years ago, they wouldn't have needed to do Twitch drops, but these platforms evolve. What people come to expect of these platforms evolves. And so seeing CCP do something like this is, it's thumbs up, just keeping up with, what every other platform is offering, what every other games company is taking advantage. I don't think it's particularly surprising, but it's nice to see it be reasonably on time rather than lagging a couple of years behind.
To the Twitch drops, there's a couple dynamics to it. The one is obviously rewarding players for watching, getting more engagement on your Twitch streams, having a fun way for like your faithful players to be rewarded and feel more included and engaged in the game. But very sneakily, what it's also doing is getting more viewership into your category overall, which is driving up EVE Online in the overall rankings of Twitch, which will hopefully have more players discovering it for the first time. So I think it's a win for everybody involved.
Does anybody in this channel regularly, or at least have they regularly in the past, have you streamed EVE Online PvP? Like actual regular sandbox PvP, not rather than anything to do with any tournaments?
Yeah, how it goes.
Yeah. Do you perceive there to be any gameplay related issues that you would like to improve to support that kind of streaming?
Ooh. That's a loaded
thorny question. I'll say it. I'll say it out loud. It's definitely a thorny question because over the last few years, I have every year 2 or 3 people will ask me to support various changes to the game to help further their ability to stream PvP in EVE, and I struggle to agree with any of these suggestions or indeed any of the problems.
Yeah, this is me personally, and to make sure the streaming community doesn't get super mad at me, I haven't streamed like that in a very long time for 2 reasons. One, I moved to a place that had internet that just couldn't support a good quality stream. And the other reason I stopped doing it is most of the PvP I did was I just didn't feel comfortable having it streamed for purposes of, people camping it essentially and getting information on.
I can speak to that a little bit because we've done and I don't know if this is right to say on Twitch, absolutely massive amount of stream sniping. It happens a lot in EVE, and that's probably there's nothing that EVE really should or needs to do about it, but that is a big effect on why if you're doing a big op that like has actual big pieces involved, you're never going to stream it because you're just shooting yourself in the foot immediately.
Yeah,
I mean, basically, this is a game about vying for intel and advantage, and a live stream of something is sort of
free intel.
One form of ultimate intel. So, I mean, I don't
only
see
if
many
you're worried that your
people
strategy is bad.
Well,
there's.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, but no, but
you almost have me then.
I wouldn't change anything about that, though. I think EVE as a sandbox PvP game, the value of that is too important to accept nerfs to it and make it more instancy. to make it more stream friendly. I don't think that'd be a worthwhile trade for me. And that's someone who has streamed, wants to stream more, but at the same time, I value that aspect of EVE too much to lose it.
I have a comment to the streamability of EVE PvP, and that is the Abyssal tournaments were excellent content for that. They were absolutely top tier. You go in, you're in an arena, you're not giving away your location, you're getting that fair fight, and you can talk to your audience in between matches. A lot of people want that back.
I do agree that made great streaming content. You know, I don't typically actually tune into regular sandbox non-AT PvP, but I did spend longer watching people doing tournament stuff, because you know, you're just seeing, here's a bunch of people having quick, you know, even matches. But the issue with the arena content, and I don't think any of us are qualified to know the data that could prove this. My concern is that it is removing some action that would otherwise be taking place elsewhere in the game. Obviously not, you know, all of the content going on in an arena wouldn't be immediately transplanted into the regular sandbox. But it is somewhere else for people to be other than the sandbox. And I'm uncomfortable with that essentially removal of content from the sandbox.
I feel I was definitely fighting a lot of people I normally wouldn't get the chance to, like whether they live in a different area of space or they're just not into the same kind of PvP I'm otherwise doing. But that is the same case for like big nullsec battles that like they ping, you show up, you're not in faction warfare.
What do we mean by that?
I mean, like any form of PvP is taking away from all other forms of PvP that could be happening at the time to a certain degree. Like big wars tend to like
happening in the sandbox,
siphon everyone else out from everywhere else to a certain degree. I just felt like it was a good thing because it was always on weekends, and like I could play with my US time zone friends or AU time zone friends and do a bit of stuff with them.
But I mean, you know, nullsec, because something is happening on the other side of the galaxy, doesn't mean that you're excluded from it.
I already plan on in about 3 years, we're gonna, if the game's not dead, we're gonna have another big fuck Delve War. I guarantee it.
There's also an element of like some people will participate in a big fuck off Delve War that wouldn't participate in small gang roams, that wouldn't normally participate in, say, an Abyssal tournament. Like the variety and the location of the PvP does matter somewhat. It's not a truly net zero game. Excuse me, a zero-sum game is what I was going for.
That's fair. Yeah.
You guys have the list of questions. I don't.
Oh, actually, yeah, good point.
There's a question list?
We have lists of questions, yeah, that we've been kind of, well, I mean, I say working on. Like, I don't know whether that's truly a good descriptor of it.
well, so far we used 0 of those questions.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough then.
0.
Yes, 0. I mean, I can give you the most hard-hitting of the questions of this list. How do you spell favorite?
How do you spell it when you're writing it in your mind?
With a U, like
right.
a civilized person.
We may be subtly touching on something with that particular question. Regarding CCP's, regarding CCP's sort of a change of policy with regards to how the CSM are being picked.
You mean the fact that CCP will choose from 11 to 20 an extra 2 people?
Yeah, they're going to be picking their favorites.
What do we think that says about how they feel the selection from the public goes? Because that's the real question here, isn't it?
Well, it's a popularity contest. It's never been a secret. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just means they feel like they want to make sure that it isn't just a popularity contest, and they get to augment it with people they think are important but just weren't popular enough. And obviously, they have to have some amount of popularity because they have to be in the top 20.
Yeah.
I think
But
they've
obviously,
also
specifically, like, important to the the next year's potential development in the game, right?
I think they've also had a number of instances where they've had elected CSM candidates that just didn't put the work in, or weren't engaged, or left. Those people were replaced by people lower in the list that performed way, way better. That's happened several times now. So I think they're just kind of going, okay, our top 10 is not necessarily the best cutoff here.
I think there are two extra things to take into account here. First is, in almost any other political system, you have some sort of boost to the votes of less densely packed groups. So, like, if you're in a big block, your vote would necessarily count a little bit less than, say, the wormholes and the poachven and the high-sec way of things. So it's a way of, like, getting a little bit of a positive diversity into the CSM. And secondly, a lot of the, well, not a lot of them, but some of the big block candidates do notoriously very little to show off what they're about because they know they're going to get elected. Definitely not pointing any fingers, but there are some people who have been on CSM previously that I just don't know anything about. And I can see that CCP would like to bring in some people who, like, put in the effort but don't necessarily have the user base for a pure popularity contest and, like, get in on their content instead.
I'd like to point out also the CSM used to be 12 elected positions straight up, and they reduced it to 10 a few years ago. I think they were just like, we want to go back to 12, but if we're doing that, we might, like, let's do something interesting with the extra 2. That also could be part of it because, like I said, they were saying, oh, these 11th and 12th candidates are really good, and we're not doing them anymore because we reduced it to 10. Maybe we should go back. But they just decided not to just go back to the straight elected 12.
I mean, what it says to me is that they don't feel that they're getting enough diversity of opinions on how the game should be designed, where it should offer opportunities, where it should remove opportunities to balance things out. It says to me that they feel that they can't trust that all of the information they get is in good faith.
They may think that, but we're pretty sure that as players, we don't think all the information we get from them is on good faith either.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's also, I think they did this as a stopgap. As you can also say, they did a stopgap because what people have asked for a long time is to have, like, regional seats. Like, oh, this seat is going to go to a null set candidate. This seat is going to go to a low set candidate. This seat's going to go to a high set candidate. This seat will go to a wormhole candidate. And I think CCP just doesn't like that idea because it feels very railroady. And this is kind of a way to halfway get that effect. So if they notice they don't get a wormhole candidate, they'll be like, we'll shove it in. And it's like we had a wormhole seat, but we didn't.
I mean, whoever gets picked, half of the game is going to be extremely disappointed in whoever the 2 picks are.
I'm sure that's
going to happen anyways.
Everyone in the game will be upset about at least one of the picks. I can almost guarantee that.
Let's put it this way.
Everyone will be upset about one of them.
If you're going to have a user advisory board, notice how I said user, right? Because many companies do, right? If you hand pick them, any of them, you are just hand picking your yes men. Okay?
I was wondering whether we were going to get to that
it is just
it's
perception. If you're trying to get feedback that is outside your little cocoon, that's not the way to do it. And if you had 12 before and you want 12 again, make them elected. That's just my position, right? And by the way, the people who play the game are the ones who are more likely to vote. Just bottom line. And by the way, these two, I guarantee you, will be disdained by the rest of the board, the CSM, and they will be pretty much hated by most of the people who play the game.
I don't care.
feel like that's not much
that
of a
seems a bit
guarantee.
cynical.
I would not go that far.
Hey, let's put it this way. I'm making the call. We'll see.
Are you
happens.
saying that you think that the other CSM members are bitter, hateful people who?
No, I'm saying that as time goes on, you're probably going to see them more as shills for the company.
It depends who they pick, then, doesn't it?
It does depend on who they pick, and
I don't see any of the candidates running who look like people who are in that sort of position. And if anything, the only people who are going to be upset about this are the people who ran, didn't make it in, and then didn't get picked. They're going to be the really salty ones. If you got in on the election, you don't care.
Do they have to run to be picked?
Yes, they have to.
You have to run.
They have to.
Trust me.
Yeah,
they're in there.
They have to run, but like the question is whether somebody who gets picked to actually buy CCP actually did do a decent amount of work for their candidacy, right? If they did basically bugger all in their candidacy to actually get any votes or whatever like that, and just smooge to CCP.
They have to be top
they
20.
can't do that because they have to be above even the top half of the candidates to even be viable for it. So if someone just is yes men who got no votes, then they're not going to be in that top 20.
Trust me.
My question would be, what happens if one of these handpicked candidates has to drop out of the CSM for whatever reason?
Well, they just get another handpicked candidate.
I assume they would just
get another one,
like they have in the past.
Handpicked.
Yeah. Either that, or they would just go to like the 11th elected result if that wasn't the person selected by CSP. That's also a viable choice.
Yeah.
Well, that would still count as a handpicked.
Well, yeah,
that's
that's how it would work in the past when someone drops out. Is you'd go to the next.
Yeah.
The person who would have gotten in if they hadn't.
They said they would be basing this most on the interviews that we are going to do next week.
Oh yeah, because you guys have got a whole bunch of interviews. Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of CSM interviews on CCP's channel, right? Like,
that's not how yet.
But I think that if people are going to be like this cynical and say that they're going to be disliked, I think that the biggest chance of them being disliked is if they pick the third or fourth person from a null block that already has 2 or 3 people in it. In the CSM.
I think Empire players on the forums would explode.
Yeah.
Well, there'll definitely be. Sorry, go for it.
The thing I fear is that the candidates themselves that get picked by CCP will feel this as a shallow victory, right?
I think that might be a fair point, because it is you didn't make it, but you're getting picked. However, they also might feel a bit of pressure to prove themselves now. Like they know they're in a position where you're only here because CCP picked you, and they might feel a need to go to the CSM who got elected and prove to them, hey, I'm willing to put in the work. I deserve to be here too. Let me show you.
Interestingly, though,
I'm not saying they're not going to work. I'm going to say they are going to be the ones that are least likely to make waves with CCP.
I have to wonder how this is going to affect the. I have to wonder how this new kind of addition is going to affect the wormhole voting candidates and stuff, because it's if you're in a wormhole, you kind of we've seen it in the past where wormhole candidates basically split their votes and then don't get any candidate in whatsoever. I'm wondering whether
Got around
they're
that
looking at this looking at this now, going, well, you know, do we have to like solidify our votes on one candidate, or can we not vote for somebody and then expect that, you know, when it comes to the two candidates that get picked by CCP, that CCP would you know, logically in some way, shape, or form want to pick a null block or not a null block, a wormhole candidate, and you know then they would have like, you know, their pick of 2 different or 3 different candidates in that regard.
I don't think you're going to find a wormhole player who has the trust in CCP to bet on that.
Counterpoint, McLeod. When's the last time CCP bet on wormhole players and picked them?
What wormhole player is going to trust CCP to choose to give them a representative?
There's also something you're missing here. CCP said that they want these 2 handpicked CSM to be knowledgeable or to represent something in EVE that they are thinking about or working on, right?
Yeah.
And when was the last time CCP even thought about working on wormholes?
There is that.
Oh,
they made a change to drifters after. Well, no, the mass change for Marauders was for wormholes. That was the point for that. So that's the last time they did something for wormholes, technically.
Fair point.
I kind of like that change for other areas too, because Marauders are now like a fully blinged out paladin is like 660 meters per second. So.
Yeah, I did something.
And I fought a lot of.
The biggest thing was even if you don't fight in wormholes, if you're moving through wormholes, which even people who aren't wormholes do a fair amount, it affects how many you can bring. So it helps.
Definitely, yeah. But it is one of those sorts of like, you know, interesting aspects of this particular CSM candidacy as to like whether, you know, whether people will still bunch up and actually, you know, push for a single wormhole candidate or not. Like,
I'll say I think it would be very dumb of them not to.
And I mean, personally, I think exactly the same as you, Nuke. Like, it would be really dumb for them not to, you know, push for a single one. But
what are Mark's chances of re-election after he shit talked so many wormhole groups in the tournament?
I
don't think tournament commentary shit talk is going to derail his. Maybe it will. That would be hilarious if that's why he does again. But I don't think tournament commentary shit talk is going to derail.
You guys do know that he's like being funny and making fun digs when he's doing his commentary, right?
I always felt like
he's not using his commentary as a platform to say, and let me unfurl my list of people who have wronged me. That's not what he's. I mean, you know, it was humor, right?
Also, if you've seen it,
by the way,
I haven't.
When I remind everybody, you're not doing a campaign for them. You know.
Good point.
Good.
If I want,
just bury him.
If I want a campaign for Mark, I'm going to do it.
No, actually, he said he would put me on the wormhole ballot, so because of that, I kind of have to partly campaign for him. I was like, okay, so.
You see this bribery that's going on?
There you go.
That's nothing new in the AT. What do you mean? People have been buying votes in the CSM since it fucking started, dude.
Bargos, give us a golf clap.
Oh dear God.
That was good. That was good. I liked it.
I just want to point out that the last time we got someone on the goon ballot, they got hired by CCP, so be careful what you ask us for.
Wait, who was that?
Ithaca.
Oh God.
I don't think this isn't meant to be mean to CCP, but I don't think I would take a job at CCP given what we know about like the company.
This brings us nicely on to another pre-prepared question for all CSM candidates in here. What the hell is wrong with you? Why do you want to do this to yourselves?
That was the question
individually for that, or?
That everyone asked when I said, "Oh, I think I'm going to CCP." That was literally the response from everyone. Why? Like, why would you want to do that to yourself?
Yeah,
I completely disagree.
Go for it.
I completely disagree with that premise. Like, had I known that people would be so interested in like chatting about Eve and being invited to random discords to just like sit and talk about like crunchy Eve things all day, I would have ran way earlier. Like, I kind of wanted to back in the day, but I was a wormhole candidate at the time, and like the same reason why like there must only be one. I didn't want to go up against Noob Man that time, and he got in insider traded and got kicked out immediately afterwards. So,
You know,
but it's been fun. Campaigning has been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying myself.
I will agree with that. The campaigning has been fine, but I have had so many people tell me like, "Oh, you're gonna get on the CSM, and then you're gonna hate it. You're gonna hate doing it. You're gonna hate the game suddenly, magically, as soon as you get on." I don't think I will. I've had a lot of people say that, and I think it's almost like a widespread opinion that you get on the CSM and you just immediately get to become the worst bitter vet possible.
I'm not sure. There is an element of seeing how the sausage is made, but take it whichever way you want. But my personal experience of being able to be there was that progress was slow, but progress was capable of being made. I completely disagree with this idea that CCP's roadmap is set in stone and all you can do is give your opinion on what they've already got planned. There's far more opportunities than that, and that's why I'm doing this again, because there's things I want to see progress on, and having been there once, I believe that I can make progress on these things. I wouldn't bother if my experience there had been, I didn't get to do anything that I needed done. A lot done that I wanted done.
And so the question is really born from the fact the or at least the perception, right, that a lot of CSMs that go into being the CSM actually end up being in the CSM have either decided to break from being the CSM by doing something that gets them banned, or ends up sort of after their CSM candidacy end up essentially spending time away from the game for a fair long while before coming back, or if they even do come back, kind of thing. Like that's where it comes from. That's where the question
I think that that's definitely the experience that they may have had, but I came out of it, and then a year after that I've redoubled my efforts of playing the game. I've been running my own corporation for over a year, and I've been able to try all sorts of bigger things than I was doing previously. It's been great.
I think the experience of the modern CSM is a lot different than it may have been many years ago, because famously on CSM 7 we had all but 3 people burn out of the game. And by the end of our term, it was just 3 of us left doing really anything, maybe 3.5. But now we see people running for re-election regularly, so they're clearly getting more support both from CCP and each other and the tools available.
I'll say, even if you're on the CSM and you decide to take a break from the game afterwards, it doesn't necessarily mean if they come out and say they hated it, maybe, but it doesn't necessarily mean you hate it. Like, I'll use the AT as an example. If you right after the AT happened, you said, "Oh, we're gonna be doing 2 ATs a year. You better start swimming for the next one right now." I'd say, "No, I'm done. I need a break. Even though I loved it, I need a break." So a lot of people might have that experience with the CSM, where they enjoy being on it and they enjoy doing it, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy, and they just need a break. Which is
it's kind of like a second job in terms of the amount of hours that you're expected to sort of, or they hope for you to put in, kind of thing, right? With all of the various different things that they want you to, to work on and to review and all that kind of stuff, right? So
a third job since we played.
Yeah. So your usual job, regular Eve, and also all your CSM duties. Like, I do hope that all of you are, down for that level of commitment, right? Because we have seen it with other CSM members that just, barely turn up.
I was
what you have to look at,
which is a second job,
just absent people.
I think what you have to look at with candidates is what is the reason they're actually running. And we've had candidates over every year. There are several candidates that you can identify where they don't have any clear ideas of the reasons why they're running, which basically means that they're running because they think it's like some kind of medal that they can just get pinned to their chest. And it's like, well, is it a big surprise when these people either get nothing done or just crash out because they don't really love what they're doing? If you don't love this game, if you don't love this game and you're running for CSM, then what exactly are you doing? That's just selfish.
And strangely enough, spending time away from the game also does give you a new appreciation for the game as well, because you can spend a good long while. This game can eat your life up if you will let it, if you wanted to, right? But obviously, also spending time away from from this game also gives you a renewed appreciation to the uniqueness of EVE Online as well. So,
well, not only
it's not all bad.
It also shows you what is not working so well in EVE, right?
Yeah, that's true. And
what's your guys' experience with people who have been away for a number of years who then message you and they're like, hey, I want to come back? Because I have generally found over almost every corporation and alliance I've been part of in LowSec or NullSec that somebody who's returning after a couple of years away, 90% of these returnees are enthusiastic for 2 days, move a bunch of stuff around, and then just vanish again.
Yep, that's my experience as well. We have a lot of NOR guys who have come back over the last year or two for a week.
I think a lot of people discount or don't quite realize the amount of work that they used to put in, or the amount of work that they in terms of logistics and in terms of setting things up, putting things together, figuring out where their stuff is, where their stuff needs to go, all that kind of stuff.
Perhaps
people forget about how much work.
Glasses type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also how much work that is. It's a very fun game to think about. Like if you're not playing and you're like, you know what I would love to be doing? I'd be loving to do roaming, and we'll get some really expensive radar kills. It'll be great, and then you never are thinking about, and we'll spend 2 hours looking for nothing in the first place.
I think it also
suddenly the reality hits you and you're like, oh, this isn't as fun as it was in my imagination. Even though the game is fun, I truly enjoy the game. It is more fun to think about.
There's some amazing moments that you have in this game, and some really kind of cool times as well. But it is always very it feels like a big time sink, and it's one of those things. From a nullsec player's perspective, at least, I always have in my head, right? If you're going to be going on a strat op, make sure that you have at least 3 hours of time that you can dedicate to that, because it's going to take that long, if not more, depending what happens.
I think it depends on why you're coming back.
I'm only running it, and you got to be you're probably there for an hour before, at least, with eyes watching what's going on, prepping, moving sinos, whatever. And then afterwards, you're cleaning up after the fleet. If you're doing any sort of leadership position, it gets even worse, and you're doing 5 hours.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just participating, 3 hours is kind of what I feel like is the average sort of time spent on a strat op. But if you're actually, there developing it and running it and stuff, definitely more.
I think it depends on why you come back. I feel like people who are bored of the latest World of Warcraft expansion, they don't last. But if you just got divorced or there's a global pandemic, you might stick around a bit longer.
I do want to.
It depends on why you left.
I do want. I do want to. Well, maybe. I do want to preface. I do want to add to the whole 3 hour thing. I'm not saying that that's a negative, right? It just everybody has those games that they can pick up and put down, right? And if a game is so easy to put down as they can pick up, it's not a significant event in your day. If you know what I mean, it's not something you're unlikely to create or experience something that is surprisingly that stays with you, right? If it's just like 15 minutes in and out, right?
I don't think it has to be either or. That's one of the things that I have for my platform is like I kind of wish that people who are getting into the game had a little bit more stuff. Like if they have half an hour to play and people are saying, well, we're like, your options are nothing or 10-hour tie-dye slugfest. Like there should be something in between there.
Yeah.
There is
in between there.
I just wanted to say that the 3-hour, 4-hour, 10-hour stuff is negative specifically. Like that's all.
Like you could, if you live, and I'm biased clearly, but if you live in like FW Lisic, you could go on a 15-minute little roam and get a fight or two. I think in a frigate.
If you don't want to do PvP, then for better or for worse, guess what? We have timed content that you can do from any system in the game called Abyssals.
Oh yeah, literally can't take longer than 20 minutes.
You can't take longer than 20 minutes in that one. There, you could do it on your lunch break.
But is that the engaging content that those returning players are coming back dreaming of?
No.
I dare anybody to spend 25
and do what Nuke said and do the 15 minutes of just seeing if they can get a little fight quick.
I dare anybody to spend 25 minutes in an Abyssal. Pixar, it didn't happen.
Well, since we're nearly at the 1 hour mark, I think we actually need to. Yeah, we actually need to get one of these more interesting questions out. So,
yes, that's a good point.
I'm actually just going to go for the first one here. What do you guys think are the biggest issues the game is facing right now?
Might as well go from top down, right? So let's go with Dujek.
Wouldn't be Alec?
Yeah,
I'm happy. I'm not running for this year.
Alec's not running this year.
Okay.
That's all you guys.
I think that there is definitely an imbalance in like the haves and have-nots in terms of what you're doing in the game. Like if you go and you run like high-level PvE content, you can expect a lot of money, almost like people worry that it is too much money levels of money, whereas some areas have been untouched for a very long time. Like missions pay out the same that they've done since I started playing, but going into a Pochon site, doing it for 8 minutes and getting 3.5 billion out of it with my friends, like there's definitely a big difference there. So
it's a lot more than 8 minutes to get your Pochon site done.
Well, I mean, from going into the site and getting out, you can't do it in about that. Like you're flying something fancy.
If you're ignoring all of the organization travel.
Sure, I get that, but we'll do like 5 to 10 in an evening of running. It definitely is like about as many as a new player would get done missions. Secondly, my like personal favorite thing to look at is help the awful ships. I want ships that nobody takes, the ships that we currently look at and like laugh at people who are flying maelstroms. I want those to be a little bit better. It would be nice if you looked at your old ships in your hangar that have been there since those ships were good and maybe they got a bit of love.
We do kind of already have an albeit incredibly slow cycle of ships being buffed into usefulness. It sort of puts something else back down to the bottom when something does happen. I think that we could possibly phrase that as more rapid balance changes to the game. Yeah.
But overall, I feel like when campaigning for the CSM, there is a little bit too much of like promising I will go and I will make CCP do this and this and that. Like I'm mostly running on the breadth of experience, and I don't have like my favorite ship hanging on the wall drawn up to get ready to be put into the game. I'm not running for game designer. I'm running for CSM, right? I'm going to be around and talk about the things I know about.
If you don't mind me asking, what what do you feel your areas of expertise in particular are?
I guess if I had to pick one that is not PvP related, it would be like quartermaster stuff. Like I do a lot of like seeding the doctrines for the SIGs that I'm in, that kind of stuff. I prepare all the ships for the AT, do a lot of theory crafting around that. Other than that, I spend a lot of time pressing F1, and I spend a lot of time in kitey bullshit and damping people so they can't shoot me.
Sweet. Nuke.
So then, I think Phantomite should go now. Since
you're gonna skip me.
No. You can go last, but Phantomite marched in and asked like inquisitive questions. So I think it's only fair that
that people
that
pick
goes
apart
next.
his yeah.
Go for it.
Let's go.
Hit it, Fan. What do you specialize in, sir?
Well, no. Firstly, what do you think is the where's the question? What do you think is the biggest issue facing the game right now, Phantomite?
There's obviously 1,000 pieces of the puzzle to improve EVE Online exponentially, but the number one biggest single piece of the puzzle right now is the and you won't be surprised to hear this, is the rapid unlimited projection that Ansiblex allows very large groups to make across vast areas of the game.
I never thought I'd hear you say that.
Not predictable.
Hey, I'm not going to lie and tell you something that's further down my list. The question is, what's the biggest thing? So, this is something that I'd love to talk about if we've got time for it.
Where were you during the NCPL Capital era?
Which NCPL Capital era? Because I was a member of Pandemic Legion during two different Pandemic Legion eras. I was a member during partway through Pandemic Legion's rise, and I was also a member later after it had plateaued, and they were very different places to be.
It would have been like tackling something and jumping 100 light years and ganking it with whatever capitals.
I have a distinct memory of all of us fitting full recharge to all of our carriers and other people in their super carriers, jumping from the northern regions all the way down to somewhere in Sancha space to gank a CCP actor flown Wyvern, and down there, ganked it, and got back within 45 minutes.
So a far cry from Ansiplexus now, at least.
Oh, well, I mean, that was pre-fatigue, and it was appalling that was even capable to be done.
I'd like to point out that if we're going to compare that to Ansiplex's, there is a low-tech system, Zathunan. No, it's not a Thunin. It's the one that borders right into Cloud Ring. It's about 9 jumps from Raqqa. It's faster to get from 1DQ, which is on the other side of the galaxy, to that system than it is from Raqqa with Ansiplexes. I would say it's equivalently bad.
Counterpoint there, Phantomite, is that kind of scenario, although, we can all see the, horrendously horrendous level of abuse that is that kind of that particular gameplay style was encapsulated, right? It did assist in like non-soft holding entities being able to have hold and defend significant assets to be able to fund their gameplay styles.
Can you clarify that?
To a large kind of extent, like in that particular era, Pandemic Legion was a significant force to be reckoned with when it came to null-set groups, null-set fights, that kind of wars, that sort of stuff. They didn't hold space. But they did hold
various different space at various different times. They held small amounts, they held large amounts, and it was all over the place over a number of years. There is no Pandemic Legion didn't hold space.
But it wasn't a necessity for their entity to for them as an entity to sort of remain.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was, because it was also the era of passive moon mining, and that's where they made vast amounts of their money from.
Yeah, but a lot of that passive moons
didn't
weren't actually in Sov holding space,
And a lot of it was.
Well, it wasn't soft holding space,
and you didn't
but
need
it
to
was
have
their soft holding space.
you didn't need to
I
have
know
it.
how many R64s we took back from PL in Venal over and over again.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, if anybody here is older than about 7 years in the game, they'll be able to tell you about just how many moons PL also took in the other direction as well, back towards themselves, backwards and forwards.
But that's the thing, they didn't hold the soft for most of that space. They only
you're going down the route of PL didn't hold Sov again. It was big, it was small, it was up and down, it was over a number of years, and it was different each time.
Well, I guess what they are getting at, if I may guess, is that the ansiplexes are rooted in place, and it is less like people aren't going to come and get you with their own territory. It's really powerful defensively, more so than
No, that's not true. Ansiblex is incredibly powerful offensively as well. Ansiblex is not just used for home defense. Ansiblex is also used to travel 3 regions with the entire mustered force of a subcapital fleet to the edge of the systems to go and be at full power there as well.
But
it allows you to project full power.
Capital fleet.
Yeah.
Actually, you can put caps through them too, as Init tried earlier last week.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're all aware because Goons had to again. This is what I'm talking about with Al Savoinen being closer to 1DQ than it is to a LOSIC system next door. They had to immediately rage form and run a subcap fleet up there to save them, and they could do that immediately only because of ansiplexes. They would not have been able to be there as quick as they could if you can't travel from Delve to Cloud Ring faster than you can travel 9 jumps in LOSEC.
Poor fuel monkeys.
See, I'm going to give Phantomite the same thing I give him every year. He keeps talking about ansiplexes. There should be counterplay. I agree with that.
No,
but
you're trying to keep the projection. You're trying to keep the projection, and you're about to say something like, "Oh, you should be allowed to send everybody through them. They should be open to the public." Or you're going to say, "Oh, you should be able to point them and they turn off," or something like that.
There's some significant differences between the jump bridges. Well, I mean, the Ansiblex jump gates and the jump bridges of old.
Yes, the jump bridges of old eventually gained.
That provided counterplay.
The jump bridges of old were password based rather than ACL based, so it was leakable. The jump bridges of old also gained fatigue shortly after Capitals got fatigue as well.
Mm-hmm.
You could
also bubble.
Hold on, what was that stuff? Sorry.
They weren't necessarily based on passwords. You could also just open them to your alliance only.
Yes, you could. You could just open them and have them not be password based, because sometimes people weren't in a coalition with multiple other alliances.
Yeah,
but they did have fatigue. Don't any of you ignore that jump bridges had fatigue.
They definitely did.
They did, and I think that's a valid question.
The other thing is
fatigue was better than current.
But the other thing as well is that you could also offensively deny somebody using a jump bridge
by shooting it,
by bubbling it, that kind of thing.
You can bubble them right now. You can bubble Ansiblex right now.
Yeah, but they don't. As far as I know, they don't disallow you to actually jump.
Yeah, you can still jump if you're bubbled.
Yeah, but the person jumping will die unless they're a big fleet. But I do see that point that. It's still easier to deny them defensively because, otherwise they're deciding when they are attacking and you can't, keep them dead at all times. I mean, the discussion of, how to nerf them, do you have, your number one pick for what should be done to them, Phantomite?
My number one pick would be to simply add fatigue to using them. People always have the option of fatigueless travel through regular stargates if they don't want to be able to not jump and move around. The real problem here is that Ansible X allows you to have your cake and eat it. It allows you to stack your entire fighting force at the headquarters, at the center of your vast territory. And at the same time, it allows you to have that full fighting force with fast access to the edge of your region at the same time. If Ansible X had fatigue, people would have to make some choices. They might have to simply choose to not be able to fast respond, or that they'd have to go through gates instead that obviously everybody can use. They might want to make the choice of splitting up their forces and having people base in several places, so if they want to maintain that fast response to the edges.
The Twitch chat is rebelling at the suggestion, but
yeah. The thing is, though, would you in turn then make it easier to get these Ansiplex? Because currently, it takes a lot of work to build.
It doesn't,
them, right?
It doesn't. No, you find a suitable place in a system that you have the relevant infrastructure in for your sovereignty, and you put them in and you link them up. And then you fuel them every now and then.
You do need the soft level to put them up.
Okay. Yes.
Which takes
work. No.
I mean, if the problem here is that by nerfing the projection of Ansible X, you wouldn't be able to hold as much territory, then the answer to that is yes.
That's the point. That's the entire point.
Do you think that there would be less fighting between places that are far apart? Like, the positive side of Ansiplex is you get to fight people.
No, Dujek, that is the player's choice. If the players choose to live incredibly far apart from the people that they would like to fight, that is the player's choice. If you want to be within fast reach of your enemies, then in this paradigm, you would go there and live there.
I think a lot of people who run big groups or medium groups enjoy living somewhat apart to like have their base of power, be able to get some money, etc.
Yeah, like right now there should be a downside to that, which there isn't. And also, you say that it's the fact that you can run from the south of the galaxy all the way up to the north to have a fight whenever you want is a good thing. It's not a good thing. That's why a small fight between small entities don't happen as much, because a big group can just run across the map. Oh yeah, they're getting a fight, but now you have small entities, and it's why you had to make a Southeastern agreement to even have people grow there, because otherwise they'd just be flattened constantly. The fact that agreement had to be made by the null blocks is an admission by them that Ansiblexes are broken.
You do realize if you make it harder to get around, the big blocks will be the ones that have it easier through that, right? Because
why?
They can.
That's not true. That doesn't make any sense. But
they can just easily have a contingent of people close to where the fighting is going to happen.
Yes.
While
go on, you're right. Yeah.
People.
Yes. Yeah.
Null sec making money.
So they spread out. They just have to spread out.
No. Hang on. So this is how I see it. This is how I see it rolling out, right? From a large group versus small group, from an entity with large amounts of resources versus an entity or entities with small amounts of resources, right? We all still have and we all still use, although a little bit less so now because jump bridge usage is doesn't have as many downsides as it used to, but we all have and have used jump clones, right? As far as I'm concerned, what would happen with regards to a large organization would just literally kind of go, okay, well, if this is going to happen, then essentially we're going to have like, instead of one main staging, we're going to have four secondary stagings to our main staging, where we put all about, like, you know, where we put a certain amount of defensive and offensive doctrines in there, and then if we have to respond to scenarios or situations on, you know, our northern sort of border, our southern border, our eastern border, western border, whichever, right? You'll be jumping to your jump clones to our northern staging, and then going from there, right? In order to basically not have to go through as many jump bridges and you know build up that amount of jump fatigue. So it's like, you know, and that only really can be done by a large group with large resources.
Yep.
And not by a small group with small resources.
How jump clones actually work.
Although, you do have cooldowns. That's fair enough.
You're
That's
actually saying two things
understandable.
here. You're actually talking about two things, and they're very valid points. Number one is jump clones allow you to move unlimited distances in an infinitesimally small time. It's way faster than Ansiblex.
Yeah, it does.
And you're also talking about just caching the same set of ships again at a place further away. So these are two different things. First of all, jump clones, if you do it, you've done it, and that's it. You've got to wait 24 hours before you can do it again, which is...
that is true.
When you factor in not being able to do it again, jump cloning is way slower than gating if you're thinking about returning at the end of the day. Now, if you're talking about...
To an extent, you can still death clone to your home station as well. So
yes.
Oh no, there's another different staging. How do you get there? You got a gate now. That's the point.
Yeah.
Well, you just spin up your ult.
The deal is, once you've done it. Okay, so basically, when you talk about spinning up an ult and caching a set of assets and ships at a second location, what you're talking about here is effort. Essentially, this is all extra work. Now, the only reason that effort is a barrier where there is a point that people will not cross. The reason that the blocks don't have territories double the size that they are is because everything beyond where they can currently go is too much effort. So by saying we'll just put the effort in and do that, that's not true. If you were willing to put this extra effort in, then you'd already have done it and gone even further to make more blues and more defensive pacts further than you've already got. You've already got a natural place where, because you're all human beings, that's where your patience runs out.
Well, I think
that defines the edges of the systems.
I think what more defines our natural kind of stopping points, or the natural stopping points with regards to territory and stuff like that, is less around, you know, how many, you know, defensive packs we can make, but more along the lines of how many people already have predetermined relationships with the various different groups in nullsec, the long players in nullsec, right? And whether those groups want to remain or want to sort of strive to be a little bit more independent, or whether they want to sort of, like, you know, buddy up and sort of cuddle up with, you know, specific long-term, you know, nullsec entities, right? Like, I genuinely kind of feel in that regard that is more of a limiting factor in terms of all the nullsec sort of territories than, you know, whether we can organize ourselves to sort of have, you know, multiple stagings. Because, like, I've been.
I don't want to stop you there, but I mean, we've been talking about this for half an hour now, and I kind of want to hear from Nuke what he thinks the biggest problem in the game is.
This is true.
You're going to really hate my answer then.
Let me go for it, Nuke.
Traveling regions takes too long. We need to make it short.
I'm going to go a bit more general than Ansiblex.
All right.
I'm going to hit on power projection in general, because Ansiblexes are not the only form of power projection. They are the biggest focus right now. They're the one that I would say are the most out of balance, but they're not the only one. And
so you want to nerf wormholes?
Let me talk. I don't want wormholes, but I think that power projection is just, in general, is out of hand right now in terms of smaller groups. You having your own small local sphere of influence is much harder now than it used to be, because it is so much easier for a larger sphere of influence to overlap yours from much further away. And smaller groups being allowed to have those is really important for them to be able to grow in both nullsec or in lowsec, and to have their own smaller scale fights that don't really happen within the spheres of other larger entities. Ansiplexes are obviously the best way this happens, but also how popular Keepstars are means that, say, projecting your super fleet somewhere is also so much easier than it used to be, right? It used to be a big cost to do that, and you're coffining a ton of characters, but you never have to do that now, so projecting that sphere is even easier than it used to be.
Also used to be a little bit a little bit, I mean, I'm not going to say it was in any way significantly dangerous, but there was always a slight bit of danger to moving a super fleet when you couldn't just light a Cyno between, on a Keepstar in the middle of the two towers and be absolutely certain that nobody would ever.
Move ups could occasionally be difficult because you didn't always have a route that would always have docking. What large entity has a route for moving anywhere that doesn't have a fort for every step of the way, right?
Yeah, like moving caps to
interdiction, that projection is much harder.
Yeah, moving caps through NPC sort of stations and stuff like that. You'd always have that that one or two of those few people who jump in, bounce horrendously. And don't quite hit the dock, the dock, be able to dock in time and end up 40, 50, 60 kilometers from the station. And then you're there kind of going
and I got to deal with
it. Yeah, exactly. Right. And you don't get that with especially with Keepstars.
Yeah, that's what I would say my biggest deal is that projections at hand, and a lot of the ways that projection used to be hard and could be fucked with are gone now.
I'm waiting for some
controversial. I could say that Keepstars themselves are the biggest problem, and that supercap docking should have never been allowed. But that might be a bit too spicy.
Pandora's box is already open.
That is true. It is, you can't go back.
Speaking of capital move ups, I'm waiting for somebody to just lance an entire move up on a fort so badly. That'll be great.
You can't though. They can dock while they're in invuln before they can be hit by the lance.
Yeah, not supers.
Well, yeah, supers can't, but a super move up on a Fortizar could already be interdicted as they have the 30-second cooldown. You don't need the lance to do that.
Yeah, I think it's more along the lines of, you hit multiple and prevent them from being able to dock again. So it's like, it's like taking that 30-second timer and then...
Then you
can't dock while lanced, can you?
No, but the thing is, if you jump to a structure that you can dock in, you can dock before you become vulnerable to the lance hitting you.
Aren't you getting hit by the lance anyway?
You can dock before you become vulnerable to the lance hitting you.
Yeah, because you have that invul timer, right? That always occurs initially when you jump into a system.
And it's longer than your session change, so you can dock immediately. If you jump to a structure that you can dock in, unless you screw up and wait too long, you will not get caught. Lance or not.
Yeah. So that needs to be addressed.
I think it's okay for things to be safe jumping to a thing they can dock in. The problem is that it's so easy to just have docking for everything everywhere. And like you said, and
so the question, I think the question really is why is that invul timer there, right? Well, I mean, I think we all kind of know why that invul timer is there.
Yeah.
But also, why is that timer as long as it is this day and age? And does it necessarily need to be that long this day and age?
I don't know if reducing the invul timer is a great idea, because that also has, I'm trying to think outside my own box here, that has an outsized effect on things like big nullsec tie-dye fights, where you really, really want to have grid loaded before that invul timer runs out. You and really would like that.
Even now, that the timer at its existing length isn't always enough in very poor performance.
I wouldn't be opposed
situations.
To say making it so there is a bit of a gap between an enforced gap between breaking invuln and docking on citadels, so that if you jump into a massive enemy fleet that's sitting there waiting to tackle you, there's going to be a consequence for that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have had issues with personally, because I'm in an entity that has fewer caps than a lot of the ones that we're fighting is the difference and the difficulty in using a small amount of capitals against, especially you're in Snuffed Out. I'm scared of dropping capitals right next to Snuffed Out a lot of the time if you happen to be in the area. And going with projection, I think that I'd like to see if there was a reason to look at how much stuff you can sino onto a single sino. And that would
be so hard to balance.
Balance by weight. Weight is a good
it's okay
stat
how
for
it is
that.
now because sinos are so much squishier than they used to be. It used to be you'd light a sino on a random front, you jump a super full tanked in, and it would light a sino, and then you can't do anything because the sino.
Then you're good.
As it is now, most sinos are being lit by recons, which in the scale of Eve are really squishy. And there have been quite a few cap fights I've been a part of where one side loses because they just can't get all their caps in because their sino just keeps dying too fast. So I think that's already slightly covered by that. But I do get your point that living near a group like Snuff can definitely feel oppressive. But luckily, if you're a mid away, we can't just giga drop caps on you because we're going to be waiting in the mid for 5 minutes.
Yeah, almost as if, fatigue is really balancing out movement over vast distances.
Yeah, but
and it also is a reason for
that,
watch the sino maps. That's OP maps.
The problem is the effect fatigue has on the players, right? When you are
it's the hurry up and wait.
Your players, when you're keeping your players from actually engaging in the game, right?
No, you're keeping your players from engaging in the game by not going to where the content is.
No. I think I have a better answer to that. As someone who pretty much all my content revolves around me stacking fatigue on myself and on my fleet, I've never actually had it be that big of a deal. It slows us down in getting somewhere, sure, but I've never really been in a position where I'm like, dang, we couldn't. You guys are going to be sitting here for 3 minutes with fatigue. Whereas the only thing
that's significant a fight, if it's that significant a fight, then it's
misunderstanding me here. I'm coming from a place where we were at the beginning of fatigue, right? When you could have 30 days of fatigue.
Okay, but that's not really relevant because that's third. Yes, if fatigue now had 30 days, I'd have a much different opinion on it, but it doesn't. The most red timer you can get right now is 30 minutes, and that's only if you're jumping with you have to have jumped quite a few times for that to happen. I think fatigue does sometimes stop you from playing the game, and bluntly, I think it's a bit of a good thing. I think it's a good thing that if I'm chain dropping
playing the game over there.
If I'm chain dropping blops on things around Raqqa, and suddenly I'm like, dang, I've run up my fatigue to 30 minutes, and I can't drop on this next venture. That's probably a good thing. Let's be honest. Right? If I drop on everything that moves, maybe I shouldn't.
But the thing is, if you are slowing down the movement through jump bridges, then you also need to slow down all other forms, like wormholes, for example.
Well, wormholes are mass limited and don't go always where you want them to go.
Wormholes require effort to use. You have to find them.
Yeah. There are definite trade-offs on that.
Like mass limit jump bridges.
How would you want to do the mass limit jump bridges? After a certain amount of mass, it shuts down for X amount of time?
Yeah, it can do a certain amount of mass per, say, 10-minute intervals. So,
I'd have it longer than 10 minutes, but that's not a terrible idea.
Yeah, but you don't want to ruin it so that okay, a fleet goes out to fight, and then somebody wants to move their Ishtar to go rat, and they have to wait an hour. I get your point.
That would be funny.
Don't forget the guy going out by himself to go ratting is perfectly capable of going to live where it is that he wants to go.
I think that
or going through the stargates, which already exist and do go exactly where he wants to go without any fatigue or any roadblocks.
I just wonder if too much nerfing of our current projection will like deaden the ability to like have big fights where people.
It's your choice to be far from your fight.
I think it's very easy to say everyone should just go move next to the person they're going to fight tomorrow every single time they want to have a fight.
Tomorrow, I mean, people used to go to war. They would war with their neighbors. You blew with your neighbors. It's not the same thing.
What? I've been in a war since I fought goons.
I think there's a big difference between fights and wars, where fights are somewhat organic. You know, something is happening on the other side of the map. Can I participate in this? Yes or no? Versus, I hate so-and-so alliance, and I want to continually have said fights against them over and over. For what Phantomite's talking about, on the latter end, yeah, you should probably, as an EVE gameplay experience, be picking a staging base, stocking it with stuff, moving your pilots there, making a very deliberate commitment to go over to that area to fight those people. For the former, I think that's where the gray area is.
Why would it be a short time?
Because, like, as soon as you've settled down, you've become settled, and then you have picked your one person to fight, and everyone else should be
it's your
too far away.
choice to stay where you want to be. I mean, how quickly are you killing your enemies so that there is now no longer any content that...
No, I mean, it's the reverse, right? I've been in an alliance that has moved a lot in the last 2 years. I can see that people don't love the idea of having move-ups, moving everything, having some stuff left behind, having some stuff in asset safety, burning out on move-ups that take a long time.
It sounds to me like got too much stuff, almost as if the game has become primarily an accumulation fest rather than a constant pursuit of war fest.
I definitely think the game has become an accumulation fest because things are expensive and people are risk averse to like go and blow up as much as they should.
I'm gonna jump in. Right, all games to one point and eliminating the gameplay of amassing wealth and things is a bad thing for the game. And you're also all assuming that war is one-dimensional, right? So, we can move over here and we can fight them, but it's going to take us a long time to fight them. Wars aren't one-dimensional. You get fought on the back end. If the last war didn't teach you that if you do,
that's not a problem if you don't own 6 regions in each direction.
It's a problem if you own 5.
If the problem you're having is when I'm over here, I can't defend over there, then the answer is just yes.
The answer, no. Here's where you're not looking at it the right way. If you move and you can't defend your space to go take a fight, okay, it doesn't matter how big you are. Okay, if somebody's going to come and attack you on the back end, which is exactly what happened in the last war. Right? It doesn't matter if you're big or you're little. It's not engaging gameplay.
So your problem is when I go over there, I can't defend back there, right?
Your problem is you're trying to make the game the same for large and small organizations. You're ignoring the fact that a small organization in real life has to form alliances to grow with the bigger organizations. So you're taking that gameplay right out.
What are you talking about? Small groups are trying to become big groups, so they have to make a light.
No, if a small group wants to grow.
You started this by saying when you are forced to move somewhere, you can't defend back where you came from because it's too far away.
Right.
Yes. Right, I agree with you then.
You're stifling warfare. It doesn't matter if you're big or you're small.
Not stifling warfare. You are going to the war. I'm applauding you going to the war. If you going to the war means that you're too far away from somewhere else that you own to defend it, then that place is too far away for you to defend it.
Yeah, but if you look at the soft system, too far away isn't that far away.
So is it too far away or not?
It doesn't matter how large you are. Okay? And I look at your arguments, all of you. And the only concern you have is making it so smaller organizations can do something.
What do you think small organizations can't do right now?
You guys have said that that there was a pact up north that signified that things are broken and you can't have big organizations do that.
There's more than a pact just up north.
Hey, I'm just saying, if you have the pact and you're a small organization, no matter where you are in real life, if you're the smaller fish, you have to ally with the larger fish to be either safe or to grow.
What risks do you think the smaller group is currently facing that means that they have to team up?
Hey, you guys are making the argument, not me.
Normally that particular argument is related to the size of a super fleet. Because normally large organizations have a significant super fleet, and when escalation paths meet to their eventual end, it always is super fleets. And if your super fleet is small and their super fleet is large,
I want to set something here for Finitaskis, right? I'm the interviewer. I'm not the interviewee. I'm not running for CSM. I don't have to answer any fucking questions. I'm asking, okay, just to set it straight for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, what you said was, if you make me go over there, I can't defend back there, and I agree with you.
Yeah, and if you're okay with that, I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah, I'm extremely okay with not being able to defend somewhere that's miles away from where I'm living.
But what I'm saying is,
I think we need to talk about happier things for a while. We are kind of running in circles.
Yeah, but I'm going to address Mr. MRA out there, right? Small organization doesn't want to join a big alliance. Guess what? There's shit in the game you can't do. Too bad. Okay? That's just the way the game is.
And you know what? If there's no fast travel, then guess what? You can't be in two places at once. Deal with it.
Guess what?
Well, I
don't have to deal with it at all, which is the funny thing. That's what you don't get.
I don't want to be the stickler here with your logic there, Phantomite, but unfortunately, the game does allow you various different ways to do exactly that.
Yes, which we've been through. If you're going to say that, then we're going to go through it again. Jump cloning has a delay stopping you from doing it again within 24 hours, well, less than 24 hours. Wormholes are mass limited and don't always go where you want to go.
Yes.
Ansiblex does allow you to be in two places almost at once, because you can just travel from one side of your territory to the other in 10 minutes by using those. And that's the outlier here. And because it's a huge outlier in the projection that it allows you to do, that's why it needs to be nerfed.
So Phantomite is also adding to this particular collection of things that he doesn't want or wants to nerf is all of the alts that you have in the game. He wants you to be, reduced to only a certain amount because, alts allow you to be in multiple places at one time.
It doesn't. Again, it's capped by the amount of effort you're willing to put in. People are not going to roll five equal PvP alts of the same power and put them all over the place and have a duplicate armory of
And as we have seen, it's more likely that long-term large null-set groups have that desire, that effort already installed.
Well, why aren't they doing it now to expand that influence?
I have a question.
I mean,
here.
I'm coming from a null-sec group that has done that for a long period of time.
Yeah, if you're saying that they're already doing it, then why are you saying that it's something that they will do? Are they doing it or not?
Yes,
they are doing it. Not everybody has had the desire or the need to do it, but they can do it.
Hasn't CCP been presented with this?
In both places.
Yeah, well,
they have multiple times, and we're just trying to make them see reason about it. There's no actual arguments against this. There's just defending yourself because you don't want to be nerfed, even though you need to be nerfed.
I don't feel like I actually have a very strong opinion on Ansiblex's being nerfed. I don't think it would actually matter that much to the organization that I am in.
No, I think what we are disagreeing with
is completely different. Ujek, it would have an impact on the organization you are in. What are you talking about? Your main ally is only being able to help you because of an Ansiplex network. If you don't think that going away wouldn't affect you, I don't know what to tell you.
I guess what I have heard is that this discussion has been had, and we're still waiting for CCP to say anything.
Oh, and I wonder if that's because the CSM for the last 7 years has been majority null block people who are picked by the leaderships of groups, and then everybody is told to vote for them, so that's what they do.
Well, they are the advocates for large groups of people. Yeah, fair enough. Those large groups of people are basically said, these are your CSM candidates. It'd be great if you actually voted for them, but because they have your best interests at heart, and they have the org's best interests at heart, and that's fair enough because they are the advocates for a large group of players. And in
that is the voice that CCP has had put in front of them by the players. Is the advocacy for. So
are you saying that the CSM should not be a group of people who have the largest groups of players in mind?
If you put a pile of chocolate in front of a child and say it's your choice whether to eat all of that, which isn't good for you, or to not eat it, then people are going to choose what they want to do rather than what is for the greater good.
CSMs for large player groups are not good for them, is what you've just literally said, because you've literally just.
Can I ask you? Do you think if the CSM had been around when the big fatigue changes happened, the original fatigue that was, like you said, was 30 days, if that fatigue had never happened and we were still in the era where you can teleport caps from one side of the galaxy to the other, all recharge fit, would it be okay because the CSM from PL was opposing it, and that's just what they're just doing it for the best interest? There's no issue there. Do you agree with that? Do you think that would be fine?
Who are you asking?
That's what's happening here.
Who are you?
No, I'm not sure who you're asking that to.
I'm asking you because you were saying that they were only advocating for their best interests.
Are they, though? Can you definitively say that all the nullsec CSM members right now are only advocating for what is good for nullsec?
No.
I'm saying that if you are saying that
the large voice.
I'm just saying if you are saying that it's okay for Antiplexes to be how they are because the CSM are just saying Antiplexes are okay because, of course they are, because they're, like you said, they're being advocates for themselves. Just because they're being advocates for themselves doesn't mean they aren't wrong. The same way that a PL advocate back in the old days would be wrong for saying we don't need fatigue. It's fine that we can teleport from one side of the map to the other.
It just really comes down to, do you think you need to decide for everybody how to play the game? Because everything that you've talked about, and everything that anybody talks about, eliminates someone's gameplay. Right? And when you eliminate their gameplay, what do? They go somewhere else.
So do you think that the original fatigue was bad? Because it eliminated gameplay.
I think the original fatigue, as defined, was hideous. And
do you think current fatigue is bad?
By the way, yeah, I do. And CCP, didn't even do the math to understand what their change. That's the biggest problem. CCP doesn't even do the math to figure out the impact of the changes they make. It's like they throw shit against the wall and let it fall.
Oh, absolutely. Right? Perfect example of that is when they removed fatigue from jump bridges. They had no idea what they were doing then. You're absolutely right.
They had no idea what was going to happen when they implemented it.
Yes, when they implemented it, you then couldn't teleport across the map in 2 minutes. They overdid it, and they had to walk it back so that it wasn't fucking 30-day blues anymore. But fatigue was necessary because being able to teleport your super fleet across the map immediately from anywhere was bad for the game.
I don't know. We seem to have more wars and more people playing the game back then.
Yeah,
no.
And then, after we added
there was great wars in between that period. The period where
look at the number of players in the game. That's all you got to do. Look at the graph of the number of players in the game.
Exactly. Are you
saying that it's lower now, so we shouldn't change anything to make it like it was in the past? Because guess what? Back then, jump bridges had fatigue, and the player count was higher.
I would argue back then no one had fatigue. But
and you had great wars, and everything happened. It was phenomenal.
And then they had fatigue, and you still had great wars, and there were still massive wars in between fatigue being a thing and the current state.
And
the game that was the game that was when the game was at its peak player
Multiple things
base.
changed.
If
I'm
you
just
want to
saying.
go off player counts, we'll go off player counts. But you don't know how to read a graph apparently, because the peak player base was not during PL's we can teleport across the map stage.
So what year did you decide that we've implemented this, right?
Implemented what? Fatigue? You want me to go look at the patch notes? Is that what you're asking? Or
yeah, fatigue was implemented well after some of the peak times.
I really think we need to stop
Peak times
talking
were
about this
also
because
before
we're
PL's
still
heyday.
running in circles.
Yeah, the problem is.
Well, I mean,
the problem is Eric just keeps derailing with random ass questions and not saying anything.
Well,
I'm
you
the
keep blaming
interviewer.
this on
That's
him.
He went in a
God.
circle for 5 minutes with Fant about can I be in two places at once, and neither of you managed to actually say anything. That's why we're stuck here.
Well, I'll give you a different question then.
Let's
one
go.
that
Yeah,
has
let's
nothing
do
to
that.
do with jump bridges or any version of them. Have you guys been in any EVE-related in-person meets, and what are your feelings about them?
I've been exposed to people that I wouldn't have been able to meet otherwise through just the game or Discord, and it's led to recruitment in me going to them, people coming to my group in the past. It's been fantastic being able to meet people in person.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I've been to a couple EVE meets, and I'm planning to go to FanFest. I went to Vegas when it was happening, and local EVE meets, and they've all been great. I've never had like a terrible experience or something with EVE nerds in person. Honestly, a little bit surprising considering how weird some people can be in game.
I did almost a year-long tour in 2015 of EVE meets. I went to. That was the earliest FanFest for the solar eclipse, and then I went to EVE Vegas. I went to Wisconsin. I went to like the big Goon meet there, and yeah, I had a great time. I'm going to FanFest this year as well.
All right, and follow-up question then. Since you all kind of answered one half of this question already, I'm not going to ask about FanFest, but do you intend to go to the CSM Summit if you get elected?
Absolutely. That's where it's going to be the easiest to make contacts and have a more productive conversation. It's always more productive in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think your liver could cope with it?
I don't think my liver could cope with the amount of drink that may or may not be available at the time, but that's what Coca-Cola is for.
I'd go with probably. I'm not willing to make a bet on that. That's a bad idea.
I'm gonna do more mocktails anyway. So.
Yeah.
Well, we asked you about the biggest issue in the game, so I think we need the polar opposite as well here. What is your favorite part of the game right now? What do you think is working out as intended? And
can I add a little additional addendum onto that question? Is obviously what is your favorite part of the game? The favorite part that you would want to advocate for, to be better, kind of thing. And if that favorite part of the game isn't being or going to be worked on by CCP at all, or it seems as though it's not going to be worked on in your term, how would you encourage CCP to think about working on it? Let's go with you, Jack.
I think that I'm not coming into the CSM with a big list of things that I need them to fix. I don't see that as the CSM's role. I guess I might want to slow down the story a little bit. I find these incredibly first past the post story things that are happening, like the gates. Now, I kind of felt like that was for people who had those particular days off in a way. It happened really fast. I like the invasion style of the trig stuff much better than that. But yeah, I expect most of the things on my list, like in terms of like quality of life and like ship balance and stuff, to continue happening. I don't think that they're going to suddenly stop doing that.
But if they do, how would you influence them? How would you say that it is a worthwhile thing for them to be working on, to be doing, progressing on?
I think that first of all, a lot of these quality of life and small balance issues that are easy to work on are also like widely like thought of. Like they come up again and again. Like it's possible to get a lot of voices behind that as well. Like I've been talking to a lot of people about the issues that they have with the game as well to build my platform on, and a lot of them are almost universal. Secondly, there's a lot of data behind this. I have a master's degree in math, so I am good at presenting my opinions with a bit more facts than just I think that this would be cool.
Okay, going the data route. That's fair. Nuke. What's your
my favorite part of the game right now? That's hard because I'm not going to say it's hard because I hate everything. It's hard because I actually like a fair amount of different things. The most fun I've had playing the game recently was the AT. To be honest, that was great fun, even if it was stressful as hell. But favorite normal sandbox stuff is I just really like chill small stuff. I run fleets, but my favorite stuff is just chill little roams or just chilling on comms and blops waiting with the bros on TS or whatever. Which is a bit too vague for me to be able to be like, yes, here's how I would push CCP to fix it. But
let's say it's an opportunity factor, right? It's like, you guys are there chilling out, but you're alert and awake and open to, taking advantage of opportunities that present itself, right? So it's like,
so I'd say
it's about
the big thing
the
to push
opportunities.
would be, I guess the biggest thing to push CCP is like people in space sort of stuff. But I'll take it a bit more generally and say, like, how would I, in general, try to convince CCP of I think X is an issue or X needs more work. I agree with Dujek where I think the best approach is to start with, here is as much hard data as I can get about what the issue is. And I also have a bit of experience with presenting that at work with this. Here's why I work in IT. Here's why we need X solution instead of this. Well, I got to convince the boss to spend money, which they never like doing. Never, ever. But the thing is, from there is that CCP, for all the stuff we give them, is they have access to a lot more data than the players do. So if they haven't been convinced by their data that it's an issue, then perhaps our data isn't likely to convince them either. And the best way to go is simply to try to convince them, even if your data doesn't show it's an issue, here's a lot of players who are disliking it for this reason, and maybe we can talk about why the data, are you collecting the right data to show that, or simply is it something where like it's hard to collect gameplay data that shows just a sentiment about something where maybe they hate doing it but they're still doing it because they still dislike it less than everything else. There's no way to really see that, and I bet the best way to see that is to just talk to people and talk to as many people as you can and bring it all before CCP and show them, hey, I've talked to 200 players from a bunch of places of the game, and if they can all agree on this, then maybe even if your data shows it's not a problem, there might be something going on.
Awesome. Phantomite. What's your favorite part of the game?
It's the anti of faction warfare. It's the fact that something is at stake that people have to either fight for or lose if they don't fight for it. I think it's a good lesson for all areas of the game that, when there's a very real possibility of losing something, it is the best driver for combat that the game has ever seen. If we look back in the past to passive moon mining, those mechanics essentially were, you'd be getting an income and the work would be combat. There was obviously the hauling aspect, but incentives where people can actually get something for the fighting that they're doing, and where there is a tangible thing that they're going to lose, in this case, access to that space, docking access to get their assets in there. It really sticks a firework up people and makes them fight for that space. And in faction warfare, we've been able to, especially in the last 6 months, have 10, 20, 30 man brawling fleets in battlefields, in regular faction warfare complexes, and people will be spurred to come and fight. I've got a number of friends who are pirates who are not in faction warfare, and Nuke, I'm going to ask you, maybe this is going to be your experience as well, where I'm able to get fights by being in the opposing faction. People do not stick around or come and fight pirates because they're not taking the plex, they're not pushing, they're not having the effect, they're not having a detrimental effect on those enemies. Is that something that you experience?
I can confirm that, where a lot of the times, if we're dropping on a fight in faction warfare, it's normally over something where they're fighting, you guys are fighting each other and we're just coming in as a third party. Whereas if you guys weren't fighting at all, those fleets might not be in space at all for us to be third party on.
Yeah. So, what I've learned from this, because this isn't the first time I've been in faction warfare. I was in it when it first was released all these years ago. But by putting something up that is tangibly there to be lost or gained, it is the best spur for combat that the game has ever seen. And CCP is looking at faction warfare at the moment, but at some stage they will want to reallocate those resources. And by regularly playing in that there, if there are elements of it that should be relatively low-hanging fruit that would make huge differences positively, then in my experience, CCP does take those low-hanging fruits, even if it's not on their timeline.
All right.
I think we've heard quite a lot from our three candidates here.
There was the
hour.
Okay. But there is a ending segment to our show, which, considering that we have a fair amount of people on, might take a little bit longer than
Yes,
might take longer than 10 minutes.
I was considering that. So let me finish my sentence.
Okay.
All right.
Alec, after all you've heard from these three candidates today here, are there any things you want to give them on their way to potentially the CSM?
I would say the thought that CSMs mostly act in their own selfish personal interest or only in the interest of their alliance is a commonly held belief of people running for the CSM until they actually get on the CSM. Every experience I've had with the CSMs was the ones I've served on and the ones that I've consulted on or interviewed people that have come out after. It's a very collaborative group. Obviously, people are going to have biases from their own gameplay experiences and what they believe is fun about the game, the people that they talk to about the game. But it is far less jaded than some on the show have expressed. And I think it's mostly worth thinking about for these candidates. If I am elected and there's people in here with a different experience than me that I have really strong disagreements with, how do I make sure that I am communicating with them genuinely and sincerely in a way that is constructive and can get at the problem versus attacking that person because they believe they're trying to destroy someone's gameplay, for example.
Okay, food for thought for sure. So, as I alluded to, it's 10 minutes to the hour, as it were. We generally tend to have a segment at the end of the show called One Last Thing, where everybody gets to sort of pitch in, essentially, like something that they either weren't able to get into conversation, that they wanted to make a point on, or something that they wanted to, like a topic that they wanted to talk about but didn't get to, or they something that they wanted to shout out, or some group that they wanted to shout out, or that kind of thing. This is the point of the show where you get to do that. So I don't know whether we want to go down, upwards, up, downwards. Like Alec, do you want to go with that? Like anything that you have wanted to say on the show that you didn't get a chance to say on the show, or anything that you want to point to, or a topic that you didn't get to?
On the whole jump bridge thing, I don't know if fatigue is necessarily the answer. I do think there's a lot of room between what we currently have now, which feels fairly painless and without trade-offs. I understand that at the Alliance infrastructure level, they have to put in some work to maintain and afford them. But in terms of actually the decision to use them, it feels fairly straightforward. I think there's a huge, huge gulf between what we've got now and what the level of jump fatigue was when it was originally rolled out. Whether that's tweaking fatigue, or whether that's some other kind of mechanic that slows down or makes that kind of travel more consequential. And that doesn't even necessarily have to be a change to the jump bridges themselves, but perhaps other mechanics that are related, such as reinforcement timers or other timer-based things in the game that speed gameplay up in some kind of way, so that getting there instantly isn't as rewarding. I think there's a pretty big range there, and I would love to see the CSM explore that with CCP in a way that's a little less binary than no jump fatigue versus all the jump fatigue.
Yeah, like adding some form of polarization or something akin to that.
There's a lot of mechanics that, or the funny thing about game design is there's a lot of game developers who will basically who will say to players, "Oh no, you can't ever do that. It's not possible in the game, etc., etc." And it's never possible in the game until it is possible in the game. Like I remember back in the time before bookmarks in space, and people were talking about like how it would be great to have bookmarks in space, and like literally a dev going onto the forums basically telling people that they should just cease in this this avenue of discussion because it's not possible. So just stop talking about it. And we all know now that's not the case. We have bookmarks in space. It's just a means of being able to figure out how to do it, right? And when it comes to game design, basically the sky's the limit. It's just how to figure. It's just the devil is in how to figure out how to get it to work within the confines of the actual game, like the game engine, right? So a lot of the times when we talk about how to fix or how to solve a problem, a lot of the time people go into the areas of mechanics that they've experienced before as to a means to solve that situation, solve that problem. What I'd like to say is the sky's the limit. Like you just there are ways to fix certain things by means that you haven't even given thought to, or might not have even been considered in the game yet. So keep your minds open. Anyway, Dejek, is there anything that you wanted to say, any topic that you wanted to talk about, anything you wanted to shout out before the end?
I would like to shout out to all the people who have talked to me after I said I would run for CSM. Like, whether or not I get into the CSM this year, I see running for CSM as something that has been so enjoyable so far. I'll definitely do it again, if only for fun. And I love shooting people in game and then having great discussions with them out of game. Like, one of my favorite examples of this is a couple of tournaments ago when the entire Brave Supercat fleet that got through and got stuck in M2 TAC was there. We were that weekend scrimming against the Goon AT team in M2 TAC on CC. We were having a great time. And I love that about EVE, that we spend so much time like gurring each other in game and like wanting to destroy each other and turning around and hanging out of game to have fun as well.
Yeah, that is a cool aspect of the game for sure. So long as people understand to, you know, kind of leave their grievances at the door at times, you know. That is especially true when it comes to even meetups as well, right?
Yeah, it's been amazing, and I've hung out with like everyone I've been mortal EVE enemies with as well, and it's been great.
Awesome, dude. Nuke.
Okay. I guess my final thought would be I want to say I'll say thanks to people who have talked to me since I announced my candidacy. I'm just going to steal Dujak's idea right there. Don't worry. I also want to specifically shout out my good friend Haiwanto for doing his best to talk me out of this and then actually helping when I went through with it anyways.
It's like, I'm not going to be able to talk you out of this, so I might as well help you.
Pretty much, yeah. And I guess I'll end it all with buff carriers, please.
Second. And,
oh, amen. Yeah. That's a whole
something everyone can get behind.
Woo! We found it.
I didn't check to see whether Phantomite had his head is in his hands there. Phantomite.
Purple. TCP should host and maintain a Discord bot that you can invite to your servers to provide very basic auth services without having to rent for the very basic that you'd want to do.
Yes.
That would be an interesting thing.
I mean, basically just a bot that can give people a link to click on and then auto-assign them a role. I mean, it doesn't need, you know, to try and compete with everything that Aauth can do and the functions of Seat and things like that, but it would be a massive, massive help to smaller groups.
I would say that's, you know, definitely something interesting to have a conversation on in, say, for example, a third-party developer kind of, you know, led show or that kind of thing. But like, you know, I'm not sure whether that kind of cuts third-party developers away, or does it?
Well, it's just for basic auth of granting people roles, not for, you know, the fleet logistics services, the alliance fittings that are listed, things like that you can get inside other auth services. I mean, you know, our alliance uses Aauth, and it does a lot more, obviously, as you'll well know, than just giving people Discord access. That's all I'd want. That's all I'd want it to do, is just provide roles depending on somebody's affiliation.
I wonder how Rotati would feel about that.
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Okay. Oh, right. All right. Softstill, you got anything you wanted to share with the group?
I do, actually. First of all, I want to thank you for actually heeding my call and coming on the show. We definitely had some good talks, and Phantomite, just stay yourself. Okay, we love you the way you are.
It's always fun, guys.
Even if it doesn't sound like it, but we do. Now, next week, we're going to have another CSM show. We don't know exactly yet who we're going to invite, so if you, the viewers, have any ideas on who we should invite, please hit me up on Discord. You know where to find me. It's at Sothrasel, surprisingly.
We could have done a poll. We could have put every single person minus these guys in a poll and see what people...
That's a horrible idea.
We don't have the time to do it at this point in time. So, like,
Also, Soft, when you DM'd me, I thought this was going to be way more AT related from the way you sold it to me.
Well,
I mean,
you know, when we said we had some words in the document, that's exactly what we had. We didn't have a big plan on what to do, right? That's just how we run the show. It could have gone more AT related, but it didn't.
I tried to give you guys the room to talk about AT.
Part, of my last thing, before Gideon explodes in chat. Yes, Gideon, I would like to invite you, please.
Oh Christ, Eric! I know we skipped over you. I just wanted to make sure to get our guests in time, like as such. Anything that you wanted to add to or that we didn't get to talk about, stuff like that, like.
No, not at all. And I'm talking loud because they keep telling me I'm soft, so we'll have to look at that next week. But no, I wanted to give as much time to the guests to kind of give their pitch on the CSM, so I cede my time back to all of them.
Fantastic. I just wanted to say I almost got kind of slightly trolled by CCP to some degree, because like the whole where was it? The whole video that they released, the invitation, right? I genuinely, when I saw that, like when I initially saw that, I was like, "Oh, it's just going to be a fluff piece for the FanFest, right?" Genuinely, that was an actually really, really cool video. So massive props to CCP and the stuff that they're doing right now, because it seems to be like really interesting. I know a couple of you kind of don't really have too much of a don't see that as being too massively interesting as such, but like, yeah, I think it's pretty.
I think we can all agree that of all the teams at CCP, everyone loves the art team and the people who do the trailers, because they're always amazing.
Oh yeah,
it's our second favorite team on the show, right after
they're
the
always
sound
amazing.
team.
Hold it, who's the first team?
The sound team.
The sound team.
We have waited.
Come on. No one is as cool as CCP Old Boy.
We have waited many years to see what's behind that door in the captain's quarters, too. To be fair,
one day, I believe. I said I was just making a joke when he's behind the captain's door in the captain's quarters. I believe eventually one day we'll be able to find.
Okay.
It's just like one huge rave all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It'll open up and it'll just be a mirror. Like that's you just see yourself. You're like, oh crap.
They should have done that when they were taking Walking Stations out. The last week of Walking Station, the door opens and it's just nothing.
Yeah,
it's a mess with everyone.
Just a skybox with that like error where when you move the camera and you're looking at no textures.
Oh god, yeah, where it just like smudges like the textures on either side all over it. Yeah,
we've all played Gary's mod.
Oh Christ, yeah. Anyway, some programming stuff to quickly go to top the show off with. Obviously, you guys, there's going to be a meta show in the coming in 1 hour's time, or 56/55 minutes time. There will be a meta show. Brisk has asked me to let it be known that if the two CSM candidates that are on the show say anything negative about Anzablexes, then they're all fired. So there's that. But other than that, there is going to be on the channel. There's going to be the Expanses episode playthrough for episode 3 playthrough. There will be Immortals of Avium release stream that's going to be going, and then Monday there's a Mismatch Monday with King Wolf playing Armored Core because Armored Core 6 came out. Wednesday there's going to be the classic Wormhole Wednesdays action with Mark and Mifune, and then Friday Friday is Starfield. So we're going to have a Starfield release stream with Life Shifter and a Joker XD, as well as a D&D stream. So, if any of those things interest you, then check the channel out. But definitely make sure that you are here for the meta show in an hour's time.
All right.
Okay, then.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else with that? And then we are going to be out of here. How about that?
Yep.
All right. Thank you,
Guys,
everybody.
just
Thank
like-
you, hosts, for being here. I'm again talking loud because I keep thinking I'm not loud. So we'll figure it out. All right, everybody. You have a great day, and thank you to our guests.